Hello, everyone, and welcome.
There he is.
Yeah, welcome to BSC News Live. I'm pretty sure this is working. 2 seconds? Yeah, okay. We should have all of our guests. We should have Trader Joe with us today. Apologies about the little late start. So the setup, for some reason, what happens is I can see the guests, but I can't actually hear them, so it's a little bit confusing. However, as you can probably see, or you might be able to see, we have the team from Trader Joe here, and obviously also our one and only Ben, which is very exciting. So today we're going to be talking about Arbitrum, Avalanche, and obviously DeFi, and Trader Joe. I've got Trader Joe sort of website up there. And apologies again, for the little bit of a late start. The setup, we're going to change for next time just to make sure it goes a little bit, more smooth, basically. So, I mean, Trader Joe's, obviously there's two of you here. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself? Hopefully I'm going to be able to hear you. Okay. Ben, can you hear?
Yeah, Blue, did you try talking there? Yeah.
Okay, hold on just a moment. 2 seconds.
It seems like Tom cannot hear us.
Yeah, which is strange, but you can hear them, can you?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Because I can't hear them, but obviously you can. 2 seconds. Hold on. Apologies, everyone.
Their mics appear muted on my screen, but I can still hear.
Okay.
I can hear you. Basically, I can hear everyone for some reason. Tom can't.
Yeah.
It's a Tom issue.
It is. I do apologise. So. Okay. Collab cam. Yeah, I'm not sure why. Sorry, just bear with me just a few seconds. So yeah, obviously you can hear Ben, which is great, but we just can't hear Trader Joe out the second. from my screen, it's strange because we should be able to hear them. I'm just going to try adding more sources. I know there's going to be a black thing in the middle of the screen, but this could work. Okay. Right. So, Trader Joe's, I think. Would you be able just to say a quick hello again to see if that works? Oh, great. I can hear you at last. I'm very, very sorry about that. I'll sort out.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah?
I don't think we're live anywhere.
We should be live on YouTube and also Twitch.
Dan can't find it.
Ah, right, okay. Hold on a sec. And live on BSC News at the top. Okay.
On our Twitter?
It should be. Hold on, I'll just...
Oh, yeah, there it is. It's there as of 14 seconds ago.
Oh, right. Okay, well, yeah, so... apologies again. Hopefully it's all okay now. So, I'm pretty sure, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, once again, apologies for the late start. We've got Trader Joe here. There was a bit of technical issue, but, I mean, happening these technical difficulties now means that in the future, fingers crossed, it's not going to happen. And Trader Joe, apologies that we're starting late again. Do you want to just say, introduce yourself, a quick hello? Obviously, there's two of you. If you could both introduce yourself, that would be fantastic. Definitely. Fantastic. Well, hello, Blue. And I recognise your accent as well. A fellow UK person. Do you find that being in the UK, most of the people that you work with are based in America, or do you find there's lots of other UK people as well? Oh. Definitely. Thank you. Go ahead, Yakuza. Fantastic. Well, great to meet you. Great to meet you both. Looking forward to exploring obviously your ecosystem and a chain that personally I'm not that too familiar with. I'm familiar with DeFi, but perhaps not too familiar with Arbitrum, Avalanche, that sort of thing. So yeah, my name's Tom. I work for BSC News, do a lot of the social media activities like we're doing now. Below me is one of the co-founders of BSC News, Ben. Do you want to say a quick hello, Ben?
Yeah, Trader Joe's guys, thanks for coming on. I was a Trader Joe user on Avalanche, and excited to see what you guys are rolling out on BNB chain also. That's kind of like my home base, while I do go elsewhere. So I'm sure we'll get into that, especially on today's conversation.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's maybe we could just start with that kind of like that's why cross chain is so important because there's I will go cross chain but like reluctantly, right? It's got to be like enticing enough to get me to like bridge funds over or whatever because you start to get like kind of discombobulated with where your funds are. So if products don't go cross chain, I don't think they can just assume that users will, right? At least that's my take on it.
Have you always been sort of AVAX and Arbitrum? Because I think the first time that I went into DeFi, I'm not sure if I'm not going to say my opinion on the next project I'm going to mention, but it was SafeMoon. So that's the first time I sort of took my coins off exchanges and I bought it on BNB chain, and I think because I used BNB chain first, I've sort of stuck there, and sort of been a BNB maxi since. How did you get into AVAX and also why?
Dex's Discord, and he was just in there, and he got kind of picked up by founder of Trader Joe, and so he started working at Trader Joe, and then he said come with me to Trader Joe, and so we both we didn't start on Avalanche, well at least I didn't. That's right, isn't it, Blue? It's rough timeline.
Yeah, I mean, like so many users, your story there, Tom, as well, around buying SafeMoon. I can't remember what. I think I was buying a dog coin on PancakeSwap in the very beginning of my DeFi journey. And I think, so many people that are working in the space now, they certainly within DeFi itself, you talk to many people and they often will share their story about how they actually started in DeFi, which is, 9 times out of 10, it seems to be, they started in the Binance Smart Chain, buying a token of PancakeSwap. That's a very common story. And then, how, from a user perspective, how I ended up going over to Avalanche was merely just by, it wasn't by choice of, a token or a dApp specifically. It was more driven by communities I was getting involved with to start with. So it's the Avalanche community had lots of projects that were really kind of driving a lot of emphasis within community building within their Discord servers. And I found this just really interesting because I started to join more Discord servers, which were pretty much, Avalanche projects that were at that stage building out their dApp to deploy. Whereas vice versa, at that same time, there wasn't really that emphasis on community building happening within the Binance Smart Chain. So that's kind of how I personally, as a user and as a retail user, got into Avalanche. It's through a community means, essentially.
Very nice. And is there a sort of a vibe? I know it sounds a bit strange, but a vibe or ethos that belongs to Avalanche. I mean, there are different chains that seem to have a very dedicated following, and the sort of community that revolves around a chain. One example that I'm going to use is is Kronos. It's very big in the US, and the people there they're really, quite defensive of that chain. I think it's because Crypto.com is big over there. Obviously, they can't access the full suite of Binance that we can here in the UK. So a lot of people in the US are sort of very into Kronos, and there's, I don't want to make, they're into Kronos, let's say. And with AVAX and Avalanche, is there a certain sort of type of project that it attracts, or a type of group of people that operate and build within Avalanche?
Yes, it's a good question. Maybe Yakuzu can build on this as well. But I think with Avalanche, well, I think with every chain and ecosystem, there's always unique flavors, either down to a use of an emoji or certain characteristics within the community, such as with Avalanche. There's Sir Emin Gün Sir, essentially who created what the Avalanche kind of blockchain kind of runs on. He's Turkish by origin, and so because of his previous work within the field of computer science, he's got a really kind of large, obviously, Turkish following. And so we see within the Avalanche community and ecosystem, the Turkish community is one of the very largest here, which is, you can look across different ecosystems and, states or Southeast Asian and stuff like that. But I guess the demographic flavor that really comes through in Avalanche is a huge Turkish following. I don't know if Yakuzu has anything else he wants to add on to that. But.
Well, I think there's I can speak probably from the community's perspective of what Avalanche stands for, and they definitely have a very welcoming and a kind of family-orientated sensibility. I don't literally mean like a family, but it's there's that sense of it's quite small. It's obviously not one of the larger blockchains, but everyone knows each other. Projects often, share advocates, and so you can be in one, let's say, Discord, and they will be very kind of clued up on what's happening in another kind of ecosystem within Avalanche, and so information flow is very quick. So I would say it's quite tight knit, and we have our dramas, but on the whole, it's very there's a lot of I think compassion and a good spirit. That's the sense that I get from the community.
Very good. And what is the team sort of behind Avalanche like? For example, with BNB chain, there's Binance, and they hold things like the most valuable builders, to an extent, competition. They issue grants for perhaps people they feel that are building projects worthwhile on the chain. And then there's quite a bit of financial support from Binance for certain BNB projects. Is there the same sort of infrastructure for AVAX? Do projects on AVAX or Avalanche get support from the core team, so to speak?
Yeah, so there's the Avalanche is kind of backed by the Ava Labs Foundation, which are kind of responsible for the day-to-day of the ecosystem, and that of course includes funding the development of innovative protocols and projects in the space. So there's a number of grant kind of programs. There's which range from all areas of the pipeline in terms of development, but also there's heavy focus on cultivating culture, be it through the metaverse grants program that we've got, or that Avalanche has got, and a more kind of direct culture creation fund. I think it's called that anyway, and there's more DeFi heavy incentive programs. So at the back end of 2021, there was the Avalanche Rush. Maybe there'll be a second one at some point, I'm not sure. But yeah, lots of these foundational kind of grant programs to pretty much help development of all areas of DeFi ecosystem that you can expect.
Sweet. And can you just talk to us about, Trader Joe now. So Trader Joe XYZ or XYZ.com. What is it? Why did you decide to create it?
Yeah, sure. We can definitely tack this in like two angles as well, with Joe Pegs and Joe Studios that Yukuzu can talk about. But just very high level, Trader Joe, it is a leading decentralized exchange. The platform was kind of born on Avalanche. It's now on Arbitrum, and it will soon be on BNB chain as well. And just super high level, users can swap tokens, provide liquidity. They can use our lending protocol called Banker Joe to lend and borrow assets. And the more recent development, Trader Joe, is we essentially built a new automated market maker. It's called Liquidity Book. It is the most efficient and innovative AMM currently active in DeFi, and users can basically essentially swap tokens for super cheap, and liquidity providers can earn real yield using the discretized liquidity model that's been built into Liquidity Book. I'm happy to dive into that a bit further, but ultimately, like the Trader Joe platform, we market it as a DeFi one-stop shop. So it's been built from ground up, no integrations, and users can do perform a range of different kind of DeFi activities. Yukuzu, do you want to talk about Joe Pegs?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, this is an extension of the one-stop shop NFT marketplace that we built just midway through 2022. So we've only been around for about 8 months, but it's the same team. And really, this is an NFT marketplace where you can trade NFTs, but it's also a launch pad, which is very helpful. I think, like in other ecosystems, it's quite siloed. Often launches, people do it from their own websites. Requires you have to have devs, you have to have the kind of that technical understanding in order to launch a project. Whereas we have BD team, we have our devs, and we kind of enable big and small teams to kind of, we take the weight off of them of having to kind of sort out all the contracts. We help them with marketing, and we ultimately launch their projects on our site. We've got other integrations that recently we've launched it's like a no-code NFT composer, it's called, where anyone can basically just make an NFT collection. It takes minutes, you just upload your JPEG and away you go. But yeah, we have as well Joe Studios, which was our, as I said, in-house NFT production studio. We've got Small Joe's, which launched as a free mint, which then kind of blew up quite a lot on Avalanche. There's only 100 Small Joes, but done significant volume for 100 NFTs. And we've got a larger collection called a Rich Peon, Poor Peon, which is based on some World of Warcraft orc kind of characters. And we also launched a Plague game on Avalanche, which is a survival game that was launched just after FTX. So it was this very much this kind of post-apocalyptic vibe. And we just want to bring, with that side of things on Joe Studios, about bringing, we like to call it like experiences, innovative kind of NFT experiences that have a very nice, unique flavor to each of them. We're just trying to push the envelope with that, and use the team we have, to bring just these great new experiences to our users, expose them to that.
Nice. Looking through your website now, sort of as you've been talking, it's quite rare that I get this, but I feel as though I've just opened the door to a sort of new world that I've not ever seen before. Because some of these NFT projects, I know that opening up essentially like an NFT market page, it's nice bright colours, all these graphics everywhere, and it looks very attractive in comparison to, say, I don't know, a DeFi swap page, which arguably is quite difficult to make as look as attractive as a page of colourful NFTs. It's very really interesting, and as much as I want to click on the pictures of Web3 girlfriend, which I will do shortly, I see that Joe Rocket NFTs they're launching in 1.5 hours.
Blue can talk about that if you want to. touch on it.
Yeah, that's right. Rocket Joe NFTs. Essentially, these are there's 5 collectible Rocket Joe NFTs. It's a free mint, and you can get one of these NFTs if you held RJO tokens in your wallet. So this was actually an extension to Rocket Joe staking. So we recently announced our tokenomics revamp on the DEX side, and we've closed Rocket Joe staking. And everyone who has accrued any amount of RJO, that's a token from the staking pool, they'll be able to essentially just use that RJO tokens to unlock a Rocket Joe NFT.
Wow. Okay, so I mean, at the moment, I don't hold any type of Joe. Okay, is there a possibility now that I can mint a Rocket Joe NFT for the free mint, or am I too late?
You're too late, unfortunately. Yeah.
Oh.
So the emissions for RJO token is stopped on the 18th, and that's when the snapshot was taken.
Okay.
But you can buy on secondary.
That's what I'll do. Well, thank you very much. No, that's very interesting. I do like the little man. I know this is a little bit of, perhaps off topic and a very simple question, but where did you get the idea for that sort of that little character? He's the little sort of blocky square person
The voxel
that is
guy. Voxel Joe.
Joe, I assume. Yeah.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, so this is an alternative kind of view on Joe. So Joe is he's like an old man, right? Well, an oldish guy.
You can't tell.
And this is his metaverse kind of voxel image. It's the voxel Joe. I think so it's really ultimately down to the founders of Trader Joe in terms of the direction that they took this brand. I think myself and Yakuza joined just shortly after the branding had been kind of decided and pushed forward. But the Trader Joe brand itself has been it was built deliberately to be different and distinct from all of the DEXs at the time who were active on Avalanche. Back in mid 2021, popular DEXs were either animals or food items, or on Avalanche there was a lot of snow fiends DEXs. So Trader Joe specifically then it was okay, well, how do we make a different brand? Because Trader Joe was launching when there was about 13 or 14 active DEXs on Avalanche, and branding is to be successful. It's not just about your product. It's ultimately you need to stand out in the crowd. You need to create, you need to build a large successful community, and to do that, it's all around how you utilize your branding and marketing communication. So, with the Trader Joe brand, it was built different. We made him relatable. He's just a guy essentially, because it wasn't really a popular kind of branding mascot to go with. So he's this oldish guy. He's built to be friendly, warm, welcoming. His background is more of a farmer, a builder type. He's got really big wrists. He's someone who works hard, but ultimately he's friendly. He wants to work with people, and he wants to help others succeed. And that's kind of how the Joe mascot was imagined.
Your average Joe.
Your average Joe. That's ultimately it. Yeah. And some of the features were a bit. So I think the actual brief was something like that, and then the artist came back with Joe, who you'll be able to see now, a big white beard, a really long cap on his hat, and Volley the sidekick. And I think it was one of those cases where the co-founders they saw what the artist had come back with, and they were just you know what, this is it. Pretty much first time, yeah, we'll take him. And so that's how that's how Trader Joe was kind of briefed in, and that's how we rolled with it. In terms of the voxel style, again, this is very just more of a haphazard design, which so we use an agency who had essentially built our front end for the website, and they just kind of reimagined Joe as this little kind of voxel, almost taken inspiration from Minecraft, how he's designed, to just kind of bring him to life into the Web3 world a bit more. And yeah, it's stuck. I think that's everyone's favorite as well. It's the Joe voxel character. Yeah.
Definitely. I do sort of like that, orthographic view, voxel, QB looking average Joe. So yeah, I mean, thank you for the explanation. Makes sense. Just your average Joe, your average retail trader, perhaps. I can see we can switch between Avalanche and BNB chain as well on your joepegs.com site.
It's exciting. Very exciting.
It's incredibly I can't tell you how excited I am to be able to do that. Would you be able to tell us about this? So have you just started to delve into BNB? So what's going on with Avalanche/BNB and why have you decided to now dive into one of the greatest chains around, obviously bar Avalanche?
Yeah, I think so. So basically, this is at the moment, first and foremost, like an NFT marketplace venture. So we obviously are looking to maintain, the experience that we have on Avalanche for our users, which is something which is, reliable, it's fast, it's affordable, no downtime, just that whole, the convenience of that package. Especially when you're talking about GameFi, which is something, as I mentioned earlier, we launched a project called Play Game, which is a game experience. We need that experience for our users, and we know that on Binance, on BNB, gaming is so important, and we really want to bring some of our ideas to that as well. We understand that it's a saturated market, but we know we have something to offer as well. We've noticed that PFP projects are, pretty few and far between on the BNB chain. There aren't that many communities built around purely art projects and community-based projects, which is absolutely fine, and we're not going to force it upon everyone, but we do have plans to expand into BNB and bring through Joe Studios, our own brand of that, because we've had quite a lot of experience and success on Avalanche doing that. So we think that it's very exciting, but like I said, probably the seamlessness of like how the chains are quite similar. Obviously, your guys, you've got a lot more users than Avalanche, but like the scalability of the chain is really attractive to us. And obviously we only launched a couple of weeks ago. We launched with a free mint, the largest free mint that we'd ever done, which was in celebration of the Lunar New Year. That was 50,000 NFTs. Which we had with various partners on your chain, and it went really well. It's all sold out, and I believe it's revealed, and a snapshot has been taken, the winners announced. But yeah, so basically it's NFT. It's primarily the NFT marketplace. But Blue, what's the plan with the DEX on BNB going forward? Maybe you can.
Yeah, well, so not too much to share apart from the Trader Joe DEX. It's born on Avalanche. It's been on Arbitrum for just over a month, and yeah, we announced at the start of the year that the decentralized exchange will also deploy into BNB as well. I think that's we're certainly teed up to be before the end of Q1 of this year. So hopefully, I don't know, maybe a month's time, users can also swap on the DEX on BNB. So yeah, very excited to we'll have the full Trader Joe ecosystem out on BNB, which is awesome.
Yeah, and are you going to have a bridge as well between AVAX and BNB on your site?
I guess this is alpha, but it's already kind of shared via a teaser anyway. But yeah, we'll be making Joe an omni-fungible token, so OFT. That's with a layer 0 integration, and yeah, we'll be shortly announcing a partnership with Stargate as well.
Very good. Well, thank you very, very much for the alpha. Yeah, I think sort of having that inbuilt bridge would be very useful, just so you don't have to leave the Trader Joe site. From a technical perspective as well, are there sort of any noticeable differences between using AVAX and, say, BNB chain? I mean, is one faster, slower, less, more gas fees? What can perhaps BNB chain users expect if they were to use AVAX, and vice versa?
Yeah, that's a good question. So from my simplistic knowledge, I mean, ultimately, both chains offer rapid transaction speeds and low costs. Like with Avalanche, one of the key value propositions there using the chain is the almost sub-second finality for transactions. So as soon as you pretty much transact on the chain, it's almost like immediately burn onto the blockchain. That's how quick the finality is. I think the difference, one of the biggest differences we've seen that would be that's going to be beneficial on the BNB chain for the decentralized exchange is the gas limit per block. It's significantly higher on BNB. So basically you can have a single transaction that has lots more going into it versus Avalanche, which the gas limit is significantly lower. So when we're thinking about how can we utilize the differences on BNB chain compared to Avalanche, so with our decentralized exchange, using a liquidity book, automated market maker, basically users could potentially create a larger liquidity shape when they're depositing liquidity into a liquidity pool, compared to Avalanche, where we're slightly restricted due to the gas limit. So I guess that's two big differences. Yeah.
Thank you. No, that's very interesting indeed.
But I guess ultimately, they're both great chains that offer the user experience that we want our users to have. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I'm just going to quickly say a quick word about one of our sponsors, which does relate to DeFi. So I thought I'll sort of put that in here. So the BSC News Live series is sponsored by Bloxroot. I'm going to put a little link or image about what I'm talking about shortly, but I'm just going to quickly say sort of how it can benefit average Joes. So first of all, let me say, it's what I'm about to say is completely free. So first of all, front running and sandwich attacks are malicious forms of MEV that have serious consequences for traders on the DeFi ecosystem. You might have sometimes seen, if you're trading a token, and perhaps you unknowingly or knowingly use a lot of slippage, and then you go onto PooCoin or Dex Screener or something, you might suddenly see your trade, but before it, there's a huge buy, and then after it, there's another huge sell. A person's just bought and sold really quickly. You might think, what's going on there? That's called front running or a sandwich attack. And essentially it drains liquidity from the liquidity pool and also will make your trade essentially a worse price. It's something that you don't want to happen whatsoever. Obviously, it's not going to kill you, but it's certainly not something that you want. However, Bloxroot can solve that completely for free for retail users. So to solve this problem, all you need to do, so Bloxroot created something called BSC Protect. It's the first professional grade, absolutely free front running and sandwich prevention tool available to retail traders on the BSC chain. It takes around 30 seconds to start using BSC Protect and to get protected. All you need to do is add Bloxroot's RPC to your MetaMask or whatever wallet you're using, and just set it up like that. So I'm going to leave a link in the chats that I can, and also on the screen very shortly as well. Once again, it's completely free for retail users. So when you set up your MetaMask wallet and you enter, the RPC URL, you'll just copy and paste in this custom one, and that will prevent you from essentially getting front run, which can be very useful. So that is Bloxroot. I'm going to have the details for them very shortly on the screen. And yeah, thank you very much, Bloxroot. Anyway, sorry, back to you, Avalanche, average Trader Joe's, Ben. Ben, I know that you're very much more into DeFi than perhaps myself. Do you have any questions or comments about the sort of DeFi landscape or just DeFi in general on Avalanche?
Yeah, so actually I think I have a more question related to Trader Joe in the DeFi realm. So when you guys were talking, I actually didn't know you were on Arbitrum. It's hard to keep track of where everybody's going these days. So it didn't look like there was yield farming there yet. At least when I switched to Arbitrum, so this page not available. what's the plan there, and then also BNB chain on the DEX side?
Yeah,
If
good
there is a
question.
plan.
Yeah, so we do have some yield farms on Avalanche at the moment, but ultimately, like that's all connected to our older AMM, which is the Uniswap V2 fork. So the yield farms are there to help, incentivize liquidity. With Liquidity Book, this is essentially, it's an AMM which is emissionless. So we're not actually, we're not emitting Joe tokens to incentivize liquidity into those Liquidity Book pools. It's very similar to Uniswap V3. It's concentrated liquidity, so liquidity providers can greatly enhance their assets efficiency and accrue more trading fees. So these pools don't necessarily need tokens to sustain liquidity, whereas the previous model would. And so our how we're moving our decentralized exchange forward, and this is present now on Arbitrum, is we don't have yield farms. Essentially, it's just the liquidity pools on Liquidity Book, and that's pretty much going to be the same way we roll out onto BNB chain as well. There'll be no yield farms with that lets users kind of stake in a passive route. We see this as passive liquidity provisioning, which is it's ultimately it's not that efficient. It's a model that we're moving away from to essentially create a much more sustainable and efficient sort of ecosystem. So yeah, in short, no, we're not going to have yield farms on BNB, but we will. Long story short, we will have an LB rewards program, we're calling it, where we may emit rewards to essentially market makers in these liquidity pools.
Okay, so I think I understand, especially like for the longevity of the project, doing it this way and cutting emissions is probably a requirement at some point, right? Like, you can't just emit tokens forever and expect the project to work. And I mean, and even just, I guess the downside for a DeFi user like myself is I'm kind of like a value extraction user, right? So I will yield farm daily with the sole purpose of extracting value out, which is probably not who DEXs like to have. So like on the one hand, it looks like these yields are still really good. Like on Arbitrum, it looks like obviously we've been, the more volatile we are in a 24-hour period, the higher the APR is going to be. And the last 24 hours has been certainly volatile. But like 222% on ETH USDC, and that's on Arbitrum, and that's simply from trading fees. Which is, I mean, I'm not going to say that's not good enough for me, right? That's quite good. Yeah, I guess the only downside for someone like me, and tell me this, are you able? So I think I saw. It's like I don't particularly use the Uniswap model often because I like to just harvest cash out, right? It's a simple deal. Are you able to remove? Does it? So let's say I put $100 in and I earn $1. Does your dashboard allow me to remove that dollar like automatically, or do I have to calculate how much of my LP that dollar is worth? Does that make sense?
Maybe ask that one more time.
So, I'll put it first with like yield farming on PancakeSwap. I can, I deposit liquidity. I'm earning trading fees. But my daily activity is harvesting my cake and selling it for a stable coin. In this Uniswap started model that you guys use now and you're going towards, if I earn $1 in trading fees on a $100 liquidity position, is there somewhere on the dashboard? Actually, there is. I'm looking at it. Claim fees.
Right. Yeah.
So I can, basically, I can extract the fees automatically out of the pool, basically.
Yeah, that's correct. So Liquidity Book pools, you would let's use ETH USDC. You would deposit those assets, and then you accrue the trading fees in ETH USDC as well. So you can claim those fees whenever you want. You'll get both ETH and USDC depending on the type of trading, but essentially you'll get an approx ratio of those tokens come out, and then you can. Well, the good thing is you don't need to sell USDC because you'll probably want to hold that anyway, but you can then compound those fees back in if you want to, or you can go off and perform other DeFi actions with those fees.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to be looking into this because I like what I'm seeing. I know Arbitrum is like
over 200% APR real yields on ETH USDC. Yeah, that's ultimately the power of liquidity book. There's two fee components in there which make it different from Uniswap V3. So there's a base fee which is always charged on trades, and we've also got this really innovative volatility adjusted variable fee. So that's a small additional fee on trades that are applied when there's volatility in the market. That's an instantaneous measure. It's a highly novel and innovative mechanism, and it's it's essentially boosting the yield that liquidity providers get. So that's probably why you're looking at these yields and thinking, wow, they're quite high. But ultimately that's because the liquidity providers can earn more in this type of model versus Uniswap V3 model.
I was going to ask. Oh, sorry, Ben.
Oh, let me do one more question. Because I haven't done enough research into this liquidity model at all, and I know so if you go with a wide shape, it's basically like that's your passive position. You're going to operate on the entire price spectrum, but that also means you're going to get less fees. Is there? I need to do a lot more personal research into this, and it's probably not something you can answer super quick. If you go from spot to wide, can you be penalized from not managing your position actively if you're in a more compressed liquidity model?
Yeah. So the wide position. I will just instantly disclaimer that that's definitely not a passive approach. You would still need to monitor your position, and ultimately when there's big price movements in crypto, which we regularly see, you would definitely need to check in on your position to make sure it's in range, because ultimately with concentrated liquidity, you're putting your liquidity over a defined price range that you would decide. And so you need to make sure that you're monitoring those assets within that pool to see if that price range, or the actual price of those assets, is moving close to the edge of your range. So if you take a more concentrated approach with spot and you provide liquidity over a very tight range, you would be expected to monitor and manage that position more regularly than if you were to take a wider range.
Yeah, I was going to ask a similar question, because I saw sort of on your site, it said pools, V2 pools, and I assumed, obviously wrongly, that was not sort of concentrated liquidity. However, when I dove into the pool, obviously, you do actually support concentrated liquidity. So I was going to say, what's your view on that? But obviously you've got it. But and also, not only that, you have a number of sort of different options to choose from. So, for instance, with concentrated liquidity using this spot option, would impermanent loss sort of kick in, so to speak, a lot quicker? Say if if your price range went all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom for one of your assets, would that essentially accelerate permanent loss? But on the other hand, if it didn't hit the top or the bottom, you would essentially get more trading fees because all of your liquidity is squished into that one little place.
Yeah, so so it's called divergence risk, and ultimately when you're concentrating the liquidity over a price range, if if you're not moving that position with the current price range, you're at risk of having your position converted into one token or the other. So, in the case of if you're in ETH USDC, if the ETH price keeps going up and it moves out of your range, your specific pool of assets will be turned into USDC, and you could be potentially missing out on the ETH price going up. So in a traditional kind of AMM, it balances your position to always keep that 50-50 ratio. So if price goes up really fast, really highly, you're still holding 50% of ETH. Whereas in this model, you've got a fixed range where your liquidity doesn't move, however prices will move. So yeah, there is risk of greater or more magnified and permanent loss depending on the volatility of tokens.
So it's interesting because it's like, depending on how wide you set this, I may even feel like if ETH goes high enough, I'm happy to just take profits and be out. And if ETH goes low enough, I'm happy to buy Ethereum at this trigger price at the outer bound of this range. So it's like that could be a bad thing, that could be a good thing, depending on how you're looking at what your goals are, right? So if ETH spiked 20% and my position just sold to USDC, I'm not necessarily going to be mad about that, right? Especially given the fact that there could be a correction coming in. So it's just
there's so many different strategies, and ultimately it's down to like how your expectations. So you can use this. You don't necessarily have to provide liquidity in a 50-50 kind of range and ratio. You can deploy different types of strategies, such as you can essentially DCA in to your favorite token on a retrace. So you can place bi-directional liquidity based on the strategy that you want. It's very flexible. And you can create kind of like ladder orders. You can even set up a super passive range as well. If you just, you want something easy to manage, you can deploy over for 1K up to 10K if you really want. It lets you do that. So, lots of different strategies.
And when if you were to create a pair that doesn't use sort of concentrated or MOR techniques, I don't know, that doesn't use that or type of pairing and concentrated liquidity, does the pair essentially just spread across the whole exponential curve of theoretical values? So the fees that you're getting theoretically are minute. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's the XY. The X times Y equals K formula, right? So it's you spread your liquidity over a price range of $0 to essentially infinity, and it's hugely inefficient when you're comparing to concentrated liquidity, because ultimately the majority of that liquidity is not being used to trade with, so it's not accruing trading fees. Yeah,
good. Okay, yeah, sort of. Well, I want to say just what I thought, but it sounds very. You're a very clever guy. That X times Y equals. I can't remember exactly what you said, but
okay.
Yeah, it's very, very impressive. I think it's very interesting. Concentrated liquidity. Things that I haven't seen before are models and curves that I've got on the screen now, like the bid-ask, which there's a lot of things that I have not seen that I could ask you a lot about. So I'm just going to ask you one quick one. So obviously concentrated liquidity, it puts your liquidity essentially, hopefully, in the middle of the trading range. However, this bid-ask model, it looks like your liquidity is towards the outside of the trading ranges. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So these are like different market making strategies. So for example, on a bid-ask liquidity shape, you could utilize that to pick up intraday volatility. And you might even think, well, I use an example. So with a stable coin liquidity pool, let's say USDC to USDT, maybe you're expecting a tether depeg. And so you might think, hey, look, I'll deploy a bid-ask strategy to pick up tether if it depegs from USDC, because there's tether FUD loading in the market, and maybe it will decline against USDC. So you deploy bid-ask so you can convert your USDC more the greater that tether depegs. And your thesis there would be you expect tether to regain value to $1. So you're happy to take that risk with a bid-ask
Interesting
shape.
And theoretically, if someone knew, or if you wanted to bet perhaps, that, say again, just tether versus USDC, that one of the assets was literally going to go to zero, could you put your not necessarily concentrated liquidity, but liquidity model essentially like a slope, high on the left, low on the right, so it's all concentrated in a linear curve towards the bottom to zero? I know that sounds incredibly risky and stupid to do, but is that theoretically possible?
Sorry, could you just, would you mind just repeating that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange question, but I'm just going to get up one of, hopefully, to spit in your sight, just so I can hopefully make a bit more sense, because I think I'm trying to answer your question from a very simple terminology. So if I use concentrated liquidity, so the different types of curves that you've got, again, hold on, I'm just going to bring up your types of curves. So for example, on bid-ask, there's essentially two curves towards each end. There's one on the left, one on the right, and in the middle there's not much liquidity. Could I theoretically just have the one curve on the left? So as the value of one asset goes down, I would essentially receive more trading fees. For example, if I knew an asset was going to go to zero, could I shove all of my liquidity at one end, even though perhaps at that time the pair wasn't trading then?
Yeah.
At that price?
Yeah, you can do that. So
Great.
You can use Spot to customize a liquidity shape, so you can deploy just one token on one side of the market. You don't have to deploy the other side. You can, so we don't have a one-sided kind of ladder like bid-ask as a preset shape, but you can just deploy. You can kind of stagger a spot shape by, you can make 5 different transactions, and for example, you could get with each of those transactions, the further down the price chart, you could put more and more liquidity in. So it's like a ladder. So the more an asset goes down, the more you're either, buying or selling it, for example.
Fantastic. Thank you. I mean, I'm personally not going to do that. I like to not really take much risk at all within my crypto portfolio, so to speak. But that's really interesting. As I said, I've come across concentrated liquidity before, but the sort of customization that you offer is, personally, I don't know anywhere else that does it. I think it's great. However, listeners, it's research it a little bit just before you dive into it, because as you can probably see on the screen, high IL risk, high impermanent loss risk. So there can be risks using concentrated liquidity, but as they say in crypto and a lot of other places in the world, high risk, high reward. Trader Joe's, Blue, and Akuzu. Those are sort of all the questions that I have for you. It's been very, very interesting talking to you and sort of picking your brains. And thank you so much for sort of going down the rabbit hole of concentrated liquidity.
That's unexpected.
It was.
All right.
Ben, have you got anything that you'd like to bring up at all, or Trader Joe, have you got anything at all before we say cheerio? Maybe.
I do have one question. Are these advanced strategies? Like, because the dollar cost average while earning strategy, is like, the market's run, so I may just want to say I'm going to deposit some USDC, and if Ethereum pulls, and I'll earn a low yield, but if Ethereum pulls back, I'll start buying Ethereum along the way. Are those available on Arbitrum? So I'm kind of just seeing those 4 primary shapes, but not the advanced concepts.
Yeah, so with Spot, you can be really kind of granular with the strategy you want to deploy. So liquidity book, and this will be an addition before it rolls out onto the BNB chain. So where the model is being advanced to a V2.1. So it's V2 now, and it's going to be 0.1 by the time it arrives on BNB. And part of that enhancement will include actual limit orders that you can set, which will give far more control over your liquidity providing strategy. So you can basically just set specific orders for either setting your liquidity if it gets to a certain point, or buying one side of the liquidity when it gets to a certain point. So that's going to give a lot more control, which will help improve like execution of a more automated strategy rather than just depositing now and managing that in a more manual fashion.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of like especially if you're able to place these, let's say you just want to set some stink bids, right, on Ethereum, but you get to earn on the USDC while it waits to see it get executed. You may not earn a lot, but you're going to earn something.
Yeah, you can play stink bids. That's such a familiar term in the NFT world. Placing those collection of the stink bids to see if anyone capitulates. But yeah, you can do that with liquidity as well. So you can, you can set some, for example, stables in a really low kind of price point, just to execute into Ethereum if it for some reason dumps really hard, and then you'll be able to set limit orders to then resell that if it goes back up. So it's super flexible. Not only is it efficient, we made it as flexible as possible for all types of users.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's like it's being treated as like an actual exchange, right? Like you deposit your funds
exactly. Yeah,
and then you put your orders from there. Our research lead that put this together, if he was listening and heard you say that, that's ultimately exactly like how it's being built. It's as close of an amalgamation, or what it will be anyway, as a combo between like a DEX and a centralized exchange ultimately, but fully on chain. That's pretty much the direction it's going. That's so neat.
Neat. I could keep asking so many questions about this. For example, why would a person use Spot as opposed to that sort of curve that looks like a pyramid? But that there are many reasons. But why would a person use Spot instead of that? Yes,
more control, right?
Yes.
So Spot is a uniform shape, so it's equal liquidity distribution across the range that you're applying. Whereas Curve it's got the gradient to its liquidity, so it can give you more concentration versus the flexibility that Spot offers. So Curve is quite a high, it's one of the higher risky shapes. Most of your liquidity will be across 5 or 6 bins, which is quite granular. It's been designed to be rebalanced essentially every hour. So it's not something which, if you want a passive approach, you probably shouldn't go with Curve. You can go with Spots or even Wide. It's slightly easier to manage. Not financial advice, and obviously do your own research.
Of course. I mean, everyone, none of this is financial advice. I don't think any of us aren't financial advisors. It's entertainment. But if you do like to live on the edge, go with Curve. But no, it's not financial advice at all. It's completely 100% your responsibility what you do with your money, assets, crypto, that sort of thing. However, I do recommend using a hardware wallet and contemplating as well. If you've got everything on an exchange, perhaps take it off. Don't give your private key seed phrase to anyone whatsoever. No one. No one. The only person that you might want to give it to is maybe a solicitor or a lawyer when it goes in your will, and that's it. No one. Not even Joe Biden or anything. But Trader Joe, Average Joe's, it's been really wonderful talking to you and so interesting, honestly. I feel as though I have a lot of questions that are just way too basic for you. And you come back and be like, well, it's the simple Z plus A minus 6, carry the 2 model. But it's been really interesting because my limited knowledge of concentrated liquidity has been mostly just in the sort of Uniswap V2 model, but talking to you guys, I didn't really actually know much about it. So it's been really interesting. And what you've got on the Trader Joe platform as well, obviously your NFTs, actually they're launching incredibly soon now, aren't they? The launch is very soon. I'll be looking a lot more into it. As I said earlier, it's like I've opened a door to a new world. So honestly, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that you'd like to bring up before we say cheerio?
Yeah, well, thanks for your time. It's been great talking to you both. We're really happy to have JPEG's Marketplace live on BNB now, and then the DEX maybe by the end of this month, or certainly by the end of Q1. So more opportunities for you to get hands-on with concentrated liquidity. Maybe we'll touch on Community V2, Yakuza. Like the best place to get involved in this ecosystem that we've built is in our Discord server, and we've got a huge program rolling out almost starting from pretty much next week. It's called Trader Joe's Community Circle. I don't know, Yakuza, if you want to maybe just intro that quickly.
Yeah. It's so it's basically just well, it's not basically. It's an innovative, gamified approach to community building, and it's out of our Discord, and it basically ties in because we're a one-stop shop. There's loads of you can do so much on Trader Joe, and people have lots of different interests. So it's basically about upgrading your roles through different categories, whether you like NFTs, whether you like liquidity book, all the different activities that you can do. And the more you take part in those activities, the more you upgrade, I guess your social status within, the community of Trader Joe. And it's all seamless. It's all done through Discord, also using really cool integrations like guild.xyz, Crew3, just really cool community building tools. So that's launching next week, and I think it's unlike anything else I've seen. I think it's really going to help anyone who's new to the Trader Joe ecosystem. Check that out for sure.
Most definitely. So the links after the stream as well, I'll put them in the comments below. So the Discord link is discord.gg/Trader Joe. Easy to remember. And obviously their Twitter as well. Oh, that was a bit of... so that's, the Web3 girlfriends that they have upcoming as the NFTs. It's not just a random page that I had open. There for the JPEGs NFT marketplace is just at JPEGs NFT. And once again, the Discord is discord.gg/Trader Joe. But Trader Joe, thank you so much. And sorry for clicking that tab and just the Web3 girlfriend popping up. I didn't realise I still had I was going to ask a question about it earlier.
Did you buy one yet, or are you just thinking about it? What do you got going on over there?
Not yet. I was going to ask a serious business question about this, but it turned out a bit strange. But maybe next time we can ask about that. But yeah, thank you very, very much, Trader Joe's, Blue, Azuku, and Ben. It's as always, it's been wonderful, and hopefully speak again very, very soon.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.